Have you heard the news? People are not buying EVs, electric vehicles. And there's a reason for that. We're going to get into it. You know, I've talked about this a couple of times on the channel with respect to the hybrid, particularly the Toyota Prius. And I say that's the way to go. Hybrid is the answer right now, and hybrid will probably be the answer for maybe the better part of the rest of my lifetime. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, we don't have the infrastructure. You know, unless you're driving your car just around town and you live in a relatively big city, you're going to have trouble finding places to charge that electric vehicle. Unless you just do it at home and you only drive a few miles a day, then it's not such a big deal, right? You just pull in your garage, plug it in, and it's ready to go. But what if you have to take a trip? Let's use myself as an example. Let's say that I wanted to drive to Dallas or something from where I am for some reason. It's about I forget, 6 or 8 hour trip, something like that. I would have to recharge at some point. Now, it wouldn't be a problem once I got to Dallas, assuming I can get that far, you know, a 6 or 8 hour drive, whatever it is. But if I had to charge anywhere in between, it's going to be a problem because there aren't a lot of big cities. There's a couple in between. So I'd have to get off the freeway, and I know cars like the Tesla, for example, will direct you to a charger. But so what? You get to the charger, and let's say there's a line. Or maybe they don't work at all. You know, I've heard lots of horror stories about this. People pulling up to chargers, and they're not functioning. So now you've got a problem. You're already low. You're starting to get that uneasy feeling, you know, like you get when maybe you're not going to make it. You know, you can have that in a gas-powered vehicle as well. Let's say you're one of those folks that lets the fuel tank get really low. And maybe you had to go somewhere in a hurry, you forgot about it, now that little red light pops on. It's the same kind of feeling, right? Except you're going to get it all the time in an electric vehicle if you drive it any kind of a distance. So back to my example, you pull up and let's say the chargers are working, but there are cars at every one of them. And you know, it takes a while to charge a car, right? And the big argument against my preface that it takes too long is that, well, if you're on a trip, you know, you pull off to charge somewhere, and you can get out, stretch your legs, use the restroom, maybe get something to eat. Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on a trip going somewhere, I want to get to where I'm going. I don't want to be hanging out at each charging station or gas station that might have a charger, if you're lucky, in between. I don't want to sit down for a 3-course meal, spend an hour at that place. I want to fill up my tank, which takes what, 5 minutes? Let's say it takes you 15 minutes. By the time you fill up your tank, use the restroom, maybe you grab a snack, you're back in your car, you're on the road. You're not going to do that if you're charging up your car and there's a line. You're going to have to sit there, you're going to have to wait. And let's hope that the other people that are there are courteous, that they're going to be as efficient as possible. In other words, they're going to pull up to the charger, they're going to get out immediately, they're going to plug it in, and then once it's done, they're going to be right there because they're not off sitting in a restaurant or stretching their legs on a 3-mile walk because they know it's going to take a while to charge. Let's say they're all right there, they get back in, they go, and now you can get in. What does it take? Best case, best charger. I don't know, 15 minutes, an hour, more like 30 minutes to an hour, I think. So you're going to sit there, particularly if these people just pulled up, you're going to wait for, let's be conservative, let's say 20 minutes before you can plug in. So now you're sitting there 20 minutes waiting for a charger to open up. Now you can connect up and you've got another, I don't know, 30 minutes to go. That's 50 minutes. Let's call it an hour. So you're going to waste an hour for what you could have done in 10 to 15 minutes if you were driving a gas-powered vehicle to charge up your car. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Not something that I am willing to do. Now, the hybrids, completely different animal, of course. They have an electric component, and even the Prius Prime, which is a plug-in hybrid, has a combustion engine. so you don't necessarily have to stop and recharge it anywhere. Plus, like the Teslas and the other electric vehicles, it does have regenerative charging as you're driving. So you're always going to have some juice in there, but it doesn't really matter because you're running off of the gas engine. If you have to, you can stop and fill up just like any other normal vehicle and continue on with your journey. That's the way to go, in my opinion. The best one, and honestly, full disclosure, I've only had one, but it's awesome, is the Toyota Prius. You know, if you have a small family, or maybe you don't have anybody other than yourself, there's plenty of room in there for you. You can haul a little bit of stuff with you if you need to. Comes in really handy if you need a long distance trip or something. And you don't have to stop and sit at a charging station because you're sitting in an EV. You know, I think it's funny. Again, I've been talking about this on the channel for a while about how EVs are not the way to go. And it seems that I'm right, and it's showing up in the sales numbers for these vehicles. Don't get me wrong. I think EVs, fully electric vehicles, have a place. And that place is for the daily commuter who doesn't drive any more than what would exceed the two-way trip for that battery. In other words, maybe to work, maybe back home, plug it back in, next morning, it's ready to go. Rinse and repeat, no problems. But you better have at least a hybrid that has a gas-powered engine, just in case something comes up and you need to take that long distance trip, you need to get where you're going and not have to sit and screw around with electric vehicles. Now, one last thing I want to mention, because I know it's going to come up, because I've kind of talked about it here and there on the channel. Will I ever have an electric vehicle? And the answer is yes. Again, I did say they have their place. I'm not completely against them. I will have one probably as a novelty. Something just to play with because I think it would be fun. It'd be interesting to dip my feet in it because I do think someday, again, probably not in the rest of my lifetime, electric vehicles will become mainstream once the infrastructure catches up and battery improvements are made. And honestly, if I could pull up to a charger and they were already readily available and I could charge my vehicle up in no more than probably 10 minutes or so, I'd be willing to do it. I'm just not willing to spend hours and hours sitting there. So the EV for me will just be an errand runner and something to play around with, again, as a novelty. Leave a comment. Let me know if you agree with me. And I know I'm going to get some Tesla lovers out there. Tesla's a great car, but I'm going to get some Tesla lovers out there telling me I'm wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. And I say to you, look at the sales numbers. People don't want EVs. They're sitting on the lots. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.